In the US alone, on average 1,800 people get injured a year because of road rage and 30 people even get murdered. Because of road rage. Murdered! That's the limbic amygdala. It's a When it takes over, it makes you do stuff, stupid stuff, primitive stuff, and then you feel bad about it or even ashamed later. Worst case, you end up in prison. I just talked about road rage, but it applies to pretty much anything. It usually goes like this. You're doing whatever you're doing, then suddenly something happens.
G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right?
And boom, just like that, you turn into this super aggressive, obnoxious a-hole, intimidating and threatening people and even physically abusing others.
Wow! Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
Keep my wife's name out your
Then half an hour later, you realize you overreacted and remorse kicks in.
I want to apologize to the Academy. I want to apologize to all my fellow nominees.
But sometimes it's already too late. The damage has been done. You can only hope that the others involved will forgive you. This can happen to all of us and with anybody. It happens with our partner, with our kids, with colleagues, strangers. So what's going on? What's happening up there and how to stop it from happening? This is known as the amygdala hijack. The limbic amygdala is the center for fear and aggression in our brain. It's responsible for our fight and flight response, the famous survival instinct, and it has helped us survive for hundreds of thousands of years. So hundreds of thousands of years ago, if we would encounter wild wolves or a hungry bear, that would activate our limbic amygdala. We would need to act quickly. Don't overthink. Get into survival mode in order to live another day, right? Our brain is constantly scanning our environment for possible threats. It's called pre-conscious processing. There's so much information reaching our brain from all of our senses. We couldn't possibly go through all of it in a conscious and rational way. So we filter out everything not important even before the information reaches our consciousness. That's the role of the thalamus. From there onward, information is green-lighted by the amygdala, and the relevant information goes to the frontal lobes, where it gets processed. Now, from time to time, the amygdala identifies something as a potential threat and jumps into action. So what happens when our limbic amygdala gets activated is that it also shuts down our prefrontal cortex, which is, in short, the smartest part of our brain, where we do things like long-term planning, problem-solving, impulse control, and so on. In other words, when our prefrontal cortex shuts down, we shut down the thinking part of our brain and let the animal part take over. We turn into this primitive, aggressive, primal beast. And that is great when we have to survive an encounter with wolves or bears, right? The thing is, and you've probably noticed, there aren't that many bears and wolves around anymore, or saber-toothed tigers. Those are cool. The situations where we actually have to use our limbic amygdala to survive life-threatening situations have been reduced to a bare minimum. And that's a good thing, by the way. But the amygdala is still there. It's still active and it still identifies situations as possible threats. But now, instead of using it as the ultimate tool for survival, we use it all the time for the slightest of reasons. You're getting cut off in traffic. Boom! Your kid has dropped a bottle of milk on the floor. Boom! Your neighbor's chihuahua pooped in front of your door again. Boom, boom, boom! Now, none of these examples could be labeled as life-threatening, and yet you are activating the same neural network you would with a life or death situation. That's just crazy. The amygdala hijack is an overpowered and obsolete mechanism. It's like killing a mosquito with a bazooka. Sure, you might have dealt with a mosquito, but the collateral damage is far worse than the initial problem itself. We end up getting ourselves into trouble or damaging valuable relationships for minor issues. It's just not worth it. So what can we do about this? Well, try to remember a situation where you had such an amygdala hijack. Chances are that happened at a time where you were quite under stress or high pressure, right? Or you were just really tired. In these situations, our limbic amygdala gets more sensitive and gets more easily triggered. It basically misfires. The best way to deal with this is to avoid a hijack altogether. If you're regularly the victim of such a hijack, and yes, even though you're the one aggressing others, you are no less the victim of your own brain. So if this happens regularly to you, if you're repeatedly losing control and end up shouting at people for minor offenses, you need to understand that this happens because your amygdala has become way too sensitive, and you have to make it more resilient. I just want to clear up a misconception here. Some people believe that in order to become more resilient to stress, we need to expose ourselves more to stressful situations, and that will build up resilience this way. I understand the logic behind it, of growing a tough skin and so on. The problem is, though, that's not how it works. What happens when you put yourself systematically in stressful situations is that your amygdala will adapt to this new environment and will become more sensitive, not less, shutting down your prefrontal cortex more readily and getting you faster into stupid mode. There are tons of studies on this subject. Think of PTSD, for example. More stress doesn't make those men and women stronger. It broke them. Or think about youngsters with a rough childhood. The stress they experienced growing up didn't make them calm and resilient individuals. They are far more jumpy and easily triggered than other kids. So if more stress isn't the answer, that leaves us with only one way out. We need less stress. I know, in most cases that's just not an option. We can't quit our jobs because we need the money. We can't quit our kids because, well, they are our kids. We can't just put them up for adoption, huh? So what's the solution? Well, we need to learn how to deal with our stress levels and act preemptively to avoid getting into a situation where we lose our self-control. There are tons of ways to do that. Stress management is actually quite easy, once you know the most effective ways to deal with stress. I created a course called 40+ Easy Ways to Deal with Stress, and it does just that. It gives you more than 40 different ways to lower your stress levels and become more resilient. And yes, I'm going to give away 10 copies of my course on stress management. Here are the steps to follow if you want to have a chance at winning this course. First, you like this video. Second, you leave a funny comment or anecdote about an amygdala hijack situations you witnessed or caused yourself. Third, you follow the link in the description and fill in your name and email so I know where to send you the login details for the course. So next week I will pick 10 winners randomly from all the people who did these 3 steps, and I will announce the winners in the next video. And if you want real stuff, you go to brainacademy.com. You join our 400,000 students and start using your brain better. Brain out.